Hi guys, so today I'm going to be talking about MIT Primes, which is a research program, and yeah, I'm doing it this year, so I'll just be talking about like what it is and the application process and also a little bit about my experience, and then the rest as usual will be for questions. Um, we might end like a little bit earlier today because I have an event later on, but yeah, okay. So let me share my screen. Okay, so MIT Primes is, as I said, a research program, and um, there's two kind of versions of it. So there's the Primes, like it's just called MIT Primes, and that's for people who live around Boston, like commuting distance. And they work with faculty at MIT, so that's why they have to be like in that area. And since there's definitely less people there than like in the US as a whole, it's a little bit less competitive to get into. But the one that most people apply to because they don't live near Boston is Primes USA, and that's the one I'm doing. So MIT Primes USA is a year-long research program in mathematics specifically, and it used to be just for juniors, but I think last year they opened it up to sophomores who would be doing like group projects with other sophomores. Yeah, so the basic structure is that you have weekly meetings with an assigned mentor, and basically with your mentor you decide on like what you're going to be researching on and like the pacing and everything like that. There's a few like different kind of sections that the program is split into. So there's the reading period where you're basically just doing like a lot of reading on um, books or papers that other people have written that you think might be helpful for like the kind of direction you're going into. And then after that, you submit like a reading report that shows basically what you've learned and also maybe a bit about like how you plan to use that in your research later on. And then based on that, they'll decide whether they want to let you go on to the research phase. And that's when you're actually working on your research project. Also, MIT Primes is like on a flexible schedule during the summer because a lot of students have like programs and summer camps that they're doing over the summer. So you don't have any more weekly meetings during that time with your mentor, but of course, you can also schedule like meetings or just correspond with them regularly over the summer so that you're like continuing your progress. And then after that, there's a conference in October where you present your findings. And then you have until like the early January the next year to submit your final paper. Yeah, there's also a few other programs like affiliated with MIT Primes, like Prime Circle and Prime Step, but those are for Prime Circle is for just like reading. It's basically like the reading period of MIT Primes, and then Prime Step is more like class based. Okay, so next I'll talk a little bit about the application process. Um, for this coming year, like 2024, the application I think opens on October 1st, and it's due usually around the end of November. Oh, sorry, there's a typo there. Um, at least that's what it was when it was due this past year, like November 30th, I think. And the application consists of a questionnaire or problem set and then recommendation letters. So the questionnaire asks you about like what kind of research topics you want to go into and why. And then also they have space for you to detail any of your math or programming experience, including like courses that you've taken, books that you've read, competitions, summer programs, all of that. There's also 2 to 3 recommendation letters that they want to receive from you. Um, and those can be from people who basically know you as like a mathematician because it's for math research. Um, and then the problem set is, I think, one of like the most important parts. Well, there's only 3, but it's like a very important aspect of your application because it shows them what, like how you're thinking through problems. So they have a general, like a set of general problems and then a set of problems that are called like advanced math problems. But the general ones are like Olympiad style, and then the advanced math problems are the ones that you might have to do a little bit of reading to like familiarize yourself with the concepts that they use. So they have like recommended readings on their website for like linear algebra, abstract algebra, and other topics. Yeah, so those are generally like a little bit more advanced concept-wise, as you can probably tell by the name. But they're a good way to like get into reading about and learning about new things that you will probably have to do during the research process if you get it. Also, they say that they prefer like that you have some amount of experience in proof-based mathematics and Olympiads or summer programs. It's listed on their website, but I think that just boosts your chances of getting in a little bit more. Okay, and then the last slide is on my experience so far. So, um, I went into the program like with my research topics being kind of more applied math topics. So my mentor is actually like kind of biology focused, although he also is like doing a PhD in math. So we kind of explored like how I could use my interest in applied math and like see where that took me. So right now I learned about like machine learning algorithms a little bit through reading, and then also like maximum entropy, and I'm planning to use that in predicting like disease spread basically. Yeah, so that's pretty cool, and it's like something that I've not done before or thought I would do. Even though like it seems like you have to do pure mathematics research in Primes USA because that's how it's kind of framed. Like once you get in, I think they really just want to see that you're, of course, using math, but you can apply it in pretty much whatever way you want and just like work with your mentor. Um, yeah, so after I read about those topics that I talked about previously, I had a meeting with the head mentor, and she helped me answer some questions that I had about like the research project process itself, and then also how to write a paper because I had to submit a 5-page reading report. Then after that, I was accepted to the active research phase, which is the one I'm in now. And then I'm going to be doing an interim report of like my progress in that at the end of this month. Okay. Yeah, and then general things about like what research is like. Um, you have to do a lot of reading and like we call it literature search. But basically you just have to know like what's been discovered in the field so far so that you're not reinventing the wheel with like your research. If you find something that you think is like really cool and new, but then it turns out that someone has already done it, that would not be good. And then also you have to think about like how to actually build upon those ideas that other people have already had so that you're contributing something new. Okay, yeah, that is it for my presentation. And the rest of the time will be for you guys to ask any questions that you have about primes or math research in general, or my experiences with those. Yeah, sorry about that. I was getting on the car, but yes, I am attending primes this year, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm not sure about the acceptance rate exactly, but I know that there's like around 30 people accepted for Primes USA. I don't think that there's like a most important part of the application, but there's there's like the online questionnaire, which is like what you're interested in researching, and then there's the like, experience that you have in math and computer science, and then there's the problem set, and then the recommendation letters. So I think that the problem set is especially important because that's going to show them, like, indirectly, I guess, what experience you've had with mathematics, um, just by how you like think through the problems and present your solutions. And then also it'll tell them like how well you learn about new things because some of the problems require like readings into advanced math. So I would say like suggestions for the application is spend a good amount of time on the problem set because it is definitely a really important part of the application, and it'll show them like all of these things that you'll probably like corroborate with your responses in the online questionnaire, but it's a good way for them to see that like through your interaction with them. So I think that like this question has come up in previous meetings, but I would say that like balancing your time between extracurriculars is definitely something that you have to come to learn. I think like prioritizing certain extracurriculars like math at certain times when you have a competition coming up or something um, is helpful. Like I think that like you don't have to hold yourself to a certain amount of time every day, but at the same time it's also really good to be consistent. So like even if you're only going to practice, for example, piano for 20 minutes, if you just don't have enough time to practice more, if you do that every day, it will definitely help you improve. So yeah, I think like having an understanding of what you want to prioritize at certain times during the year or just on like a given day. And then also holding yourself to consistency, even if it's not going to be like doing things for a long time. So for MIT primes, the number that they give for like what they recommend you to spend on research every week is 10 hours. And it definitely seems like a lot, but I think that like if you plan your time well, which happens on some weeks and not on other weeks, but like kind of spreading that out throughout the week, it becomes a lot more doable. But also, I think that number is like not or it's not like hard and fast rule. Like you at every meeting you set a goal for like what you're going to do by the next meeting in the next week. So I think that like of course they give you the recommendation of 10 hours and that's like a good amount to spend, but also like as much time as it takes for you to complete that reasonable goal at a decent level of like completion. Yeah.